The great towers of Nexus Prime reached up into the purple sky like giant fingers made of crystal. Ships from 1,000 different worlds filled the space around the planet. Some looked like metal whales, others like spinning wheels of light. All of them had come for the same reason: the Centennial Peace Accord. Captain Hyun-Ki stood in the human section of the massive meeting hall. Around him, creatures of every shape and size talked in languages that sounded like music, grinding, metal, or electronic beeps. He was the only human there. Most of the other beings barely looked at him. To them, humans were just another young race that had learned to travel between stars not too long ago. The meeting hall was huge. It could hold 10,000 beings easily. The walls showed moving pictures of peaceful worlds and happy alien families. Soft music played from somewhere. Everything was designed to make everyone feel calm and safe. Elder Veltar walked to the center stage. He was from the Korthek Empire, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. His people looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. Veltar was very old, even for his kind. His scales were silver with age, and his eyes held the wisdom of many centuries. "Welcome, friends," Veltar said. His voice was deep and carried to every corner of the hall. "We gather here as we have for 1,000 years. We come together to keep peace among the stars." The crowd listened quietly. This was an important ceremony. Every 100 years, all the major races renewed their promise not to fight each other. Veltar continued his speech. "There are old rules that keep us safe. Rules written in blood and pain from wars long ago. Some of these rules seem strange to younger races, but they exist for good reasons." He paused and looked around the hall. His ancient eyes stopped on different groups: the proud Asterian bird people, the metal-skinned hegemony warriors, and the small human section. "The oldest rule of all," Veltar said slowly, "is this: never wake the sleeping giant. Never corner the pack hunters, never challenge humanity's wrath." A sound like laughter came from the hegemony section. Prince Zethmore stood up. He was tall and covered in dark metal that looked like armor but was actually his skin. His red eyes glowed with arrogance. "Elder Veltar speaks of ancient superstitions," Prince Zethmore said loudly. "These humans are nothing special. They are clever animals who got lucky and learned to build spaceships. Look at them. Only one representative while we send dozens. They are weak." Many beings in the hall nodded. Humans had only been traveling space for about 300 years. That was very young compared to races like the Korthek, who had been among the stars for thousands of years. Captain Hyun-Ki felt his face get hot with anger, but he stayed quiet. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. He knew when to speak and when to listen. Veltar's eyes became sad. "Prince Zethmore, your people are strong, and your weapons are powerful. But strength is not the same as wisdom. The rules I speak of were written after terrible events. Events that your race is too young to remember. Fairy tales," Prince Zethmore said with a wave of his hand. "Stories to scare children. The hegemony fears no one, especially not these weak humans. Far away, in another part of the galaxy, Dr. Yunji was working on her research ship. The ship was called New Soul, and it was exploring the outer edge of human space. Yunji was a scientist who studied alien life. She loved her job because every day brought new discoveries. But today was different. Today brought something terrible. "Doctor," called her assistant, a young man named Kite. We're getting close to the Kepler 442 system. But something's wrong. Yunji looked up from her computer. What do you mean wrong? The colony isn't answering our calls. No radio signals, no ship traffic, nothing. It's like the whole place just went quiet. Yunji felt cold fear in her stomach. Kepler 442b was home to 50,000 humans. It was a farming world, peaceful and happy. Families lived there. Children played in the fields under the light of two suns. Take us in closer, she ordered. But be careful. As their ship approached the planet, the truth became clear. Where green farms should have been, there was only black, burned ground. Where cities should have been, there were only melted ruins. The very air around the planet glowed with the wrong kind of light, the light that came from plasma weapons. Yunji sent robot probes down to the surface. What they found made her sick. Bodies everywhere. Men, women, children, old people. All dead. All killed by weapons that burned so hot they turned sand into glass. Doctor, Kite said in a shaking voice, these weapon marks, I recognize them. They're from hegemony plasma cannons. Yunji stared at the pictures on her screen. 50,000 people, gone, murdered. And she knew why. Because this planet was in space that both humans and the hegemony wanted to control. She sent an emergency message to Captain Hyun Ki at Nexus Prime. The message was simple but terrible. They killed everyone, all 50,000, even the children. The hegemony did this. Back on Nexus Prime, Captain Hyun Ki received the message during a break in the peace talks. He read it 3 times before he could believe it. Then he asked for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The hegemony has committed genocide, Hyun Ki said to the assembled aliens. His voice was calm, but his hands shook with anger. They destroyed an entire human colony, murdered 50,000 innocent people, including children. Prince Zethmore stood up again. Lies. The hegemony did no such thing. Even if humans died in that system, they were probably fighting among themselves. Humans are known for their violence. We have proof, Hyun Ki said. Weapon signatures, ship recordings, everything. You have nothing, Prince Zethmore replied. No one saw hegemony ships in that area. You cannot prove we were even there. The council voted. The hegemony had many allies, and they controlled enough votes to block any action against them. No investigation, no justice, no consequences. As the meeting ended, Captain Hyun Ki sent a message back to Earth. It was short. They killed our children and laughed about it. The galaxy won't help us. We're on our own. On Earth, President So Young read the message in her office. She was quiet for a long time. Then she picked up a red phone, a phone that hadn't been used in over 100 years. This is the president, she said when someone answered. Activate the old protocols. Send the message to every human world, every human ship, every human family. Tell them what happened. Tell them what we must do. The message went out across human space. It reached farmers on distant worlds, miners in asteroid belts, families on space stations, and soldiers in hidden bases. The message was the same everywhere. Remember who we are. Remember what we can do when we must. Remember that no one hurts our children and walks away. Something old and terrible began to wake up in the hearts of humans everywhere. Something that had slept for centuries while humans explored the galaxy in peace. Something that the galaxy had forgotten existed. But Elder Veltar remembered. He sent a message to Prince Zethmore. You have made the greatest mistake in galactic history. You have awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. May your gods help you, because nothing else can save you now." Prince Zethmore deleted the message without reading it all. He was too busy planning his next attack on human space. The Galactic Council did nothing. Day after day, Ambassador Jin Woo stood before them asking for justice. Day after day, they found excuses to ignore him. The hegemony had too many friends, too much power, too much influence. The death of 50,000 humans meant nothing to them. Jinwoo was getting tired. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. He believed in peace, in talking through problems, in finding solutions that made everyone happy. But watching the council ignore the murder of children was breaking something inside him. "Please," he said during one meeting. "These were innocent people. Farmers, teachers, children playing in schoolyards. They never hurt anyone. They just wanted to live in peace." The council members looked bored. Some were reading other papers. Others were talking quietly among themselves. A few were even sleeping. Prince Zethmore stood up with a smile that showed his sharp metal teeth. "Ambassador Jinwoo speaks of peace, but humans are violent by nature. Everyone knows this. Perhaps these humans attacked first. Perhaps they got what they deserved." Jin Woo felt something snap inside his chest. For just a moment, his diplomatic mask fell away. Prince Zethmore saw something in the human's eyes that made him step backward, something cold and dangerous and very, very angry. But Jin Woo got control of himself. He put his polite smile back on. "Of course, Your Highness. Humans are indeed violent when we need to be." On Earth, Dr. Haijin was working late in her office at Seoul University. She was a military historian, someone who studied how wars were fought throughout human history. Most of her students thought her classes were boring. After all, humans had been mostly peaceful for centuries. Who cared about old wars? But Haijin knew something that most people had forgotten. She knew what humans were really capable of when pushed too far. She published a research paper that week. It was called "The Sleeping Giant: Human Psychology and Total War." Most people ignored it, but some people read it very carefully. People in the military, people in government, people who made decisions about life and death. The paper talked about how humans were different from other species. Most aliens fought wars to gain territory or resources or to prove they were strong. Humans were different. When humans really went to war, when their families were threatened, they didn't fight to win. They fought to make sure their enemies could never threaten anyone ever again. "Humans have a switch in their minds," Haijin wrote. "Most of the time, it stays off. Humans are peaceful, kind, and friendly. But when that switch gets flipped, when human children are hurt, something ancient wakes up. Something that turns normal people into perfect killing machines." She included examples from Earth's history. The Romans who salted the earth so their enemies' crops would never grow again. The Americans who dropped suns on their enemies' cities. The Chinese who made rivers run red with blood. The Koreans who fought 27 different armies to protect their homeland. Other species feared death, she concluded. Humans become death. 3 days later, Prince Zethmore made his second mistake. He authorized attacks on 3 more human colonies. Small places with funny names like New Busan, Hope's Landing, and Serenity Station. Places where human families grew food and raised children and lived quiet, happy lives. The attacks were meant to send a message: surrender the disputed systems or watch more humans die. Commander Dong Hyun was on patrol near Hope's Landing when the hegemony ships arrived. He commanded a battlecruiser called Incheon, one of the newer human warships. His crew was young and eager, excited to finally see some action after years of boring patrol duty. They weren't excited for long. Dong Hyun watched through his ships, cameras as hegemony fighters strafed the evacuation ships. He watched plasma bolts tear through civilian transports carrying human mothers and their babies. He watched escape pods explode in bright flashes of light, taking human families with them. Something broke inside Dong Hyun's mind. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had seen combat before, but he had never seen anyone deliberately target children who were trying to run away. "Sir," his weapons officer said. "Orders?" Dong Hyun stared at the burning evacuation ships, at the hegemony fighters celebrating their kills, at the bodies floating in space. "Change of mission," he said quietly. "We're no longer part of the human defense force. We're no longer following rules of engagement. We're no longer taking prisoners." His crew looked at him strangely. "Sir?" the weapons officer asked. "Log my final transmission," Dong Hyun ordered. "Message begins. They wanted to see what humans are really capable of. They're about to find out. No more mercy. No more rules. Message ends." The Incheon went dark. No more radio calls to headquarters. No more position reports. No more following orders. Commander Dong Hyun and his crew had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, something that hunted. Back on Earth, General Subin walked through tunnels that hadn't been used in over a century. Deep underground, hidden from satellites and spies, Project Retribution was waking up. The project had been started after the last big war in human space 200 years ago. Smart people had realized that humans might need to fight a war against aliens someday. A war where being nice and following rules would get them all killed. So they built things. Terrible things. Things designed for one purpose: winning wars. Against enemies who didn't care about human lives. The shipyards were hidden in asteroids. The weapons factories were buried on dead moons. The training centers were scattered across empty systems that didn't appear on any official maps. "How long until we're ready?" General Subin asked. "The first wave can launch in 6 days," replied Colonel Yeon-su. She was a small woman with gentle eyes, but she commanded the most dangerous Special Forces unit in human space. "The second wave will be ready in 2 weeks. After that, we can build ships faster than they can destroy them." On a research station near Jupiter, Dr. Yoon-ji was reading old files. Files that were supposed to be classified. Files that told stories the galaxy had forgotten. She found records of the Ravagers, an alien race that had attacked human ships 300 years ago. The official history said they had disappeared mysteriously. But the real files told a different story. The Ravagers had captured human crews and tortured them for fun. They had recorded the screams and broadcast them across space as a warning to other humans. Big mistake. The files showed what happened next. Human fleets that appeared out of nowhere. Ravager worlds that went silent one by one. An entire species that simply stopped existing. "We made them extinct," Yoon-ji whispered as she read, "completely extinct. We hunted them across 1,000 worlds until there were no more left to hunt." The files were signed by someone called Admiral Tae-hyun. Yoon-ji realized that was the same family name as the current Admiral Tae-hyun, the man in charge of the human Defense Force. She sent him a message. "I found the Ravager files. I know what really happened." His reply came back in minutes. "Good. Then you know what's about to happen again." All across human space, ships were moving. Not the big, obvious fleets that everyone could see on their sensors. Small ships. fast. Ships. Ships that could hide and strike and disappear before anyone knew they were there. Prince Zethmore was planning his next attack when his intelligence chief brought him disturbing news. "Your Highness, some of our scout ships have gone missing." "Missing how?" "They just disappeared. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors. It's like they were never there." Prince Zethmore laughed. "Space is dangerous. Ships break down. Crews make mistakes. It happens." But his intelligence chief looked worried. "Sir, it's not just one or two ships. We've lost contact with 17 scout ships in the past week, all in different systems, all near human space." Coincidence? Maybe. But there's something else. Our allies are asking questions. The Asterian Collective wants to know why we attacked human civilians. The Spiral Commonwealth is reviewing their trade agreements with us. Prince Zethmore's smile faded. "Since when do they care about humans?" "Since the humans started sending them detailed records of what we did. Pictures, video, recordings, weapon signatures, everything. They're making sure everyone in the galaxy knows exactly what happened, for the first time." Prince Zethmore felt a small touch of worry. "It doesn't matter. No one will risk war with the hegemony over a few dead humans." His intelligence chief said nothing, but he was thinking about the missing scout ships. 17. Ships that had simply vanished without a trace. Somewhere in space, Commander Dong Hyun studied the star charts on his ship's screen. Red dots marked hegemony military bases. Blue dots marked their supply routes. Yellow dots marked their communication relays. "Pick a target," he told his crew. "Which one, sir?" Dong Hyun smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator that had found prey. All of them. Prince Zethmore was starting to have bad dreams. In his sleep, he saw empty space where his ships used to be. He saw silent bases that should have been full of soldiers. He saw darkness spreading through hegemony territory like some kind of disease. When he woke up, the reports on his desk made the dreams seem real. 34 ships missing now, his intelligence chief reported. 3 communication stations destroyed. 5 supply depots attacked and completely destroyed. And still no sign of what's doing it. "Show me the attack recordings," Prince Zethmore demanded. "There are no recordings, sir. Whatever is hitting us moves too fast and hits too hard. By the time our sensors detect anything, it's already over." Prince Zethmore studied the star maps. Red X marks showed where his ships and bases had been destroyed. The pattern looked random at first, but slowly he began to see the truth. Someone was cutting his territory into pieces, destroying the connections between his worlds. "It's the humans," he said quietly. "Impossible, sir. Human ships are big and slow. They can't move this fast or hit this hard. Our intelligence says they only have a few dozen military vessels total." Prince Zethmore looked at the map again. 57 red X marks in 3 weeks. Whatever was hunting his forces was patient, smart, and utterly ruthless. Captain Minho floated in space inside his combat suit, watching a hegemony supply convoy approach. His ship, a small stealth vessel called Ghost of Soul, was hidden behind an asteroid where the convoy's sensors couldn't find it. Minho had been a teacher before the war started. He taught children about the stars and planets and the wonderful aliens who lived among them. He told them stories about peace and friendship and how all species could live together happily. That was before the hegemony murdered 50,000 humans. Before they laughed about killing children. Before they declared that human lives meant nothing. Now Minho was something else, something darker. "Target the escort ships first," he whispered into his radio. Let the cargo ships see what happens. Let them carry the message home. Ghost of Soul and 5 other human stealth ships attacked at the same moment. The hegemony escorts exploded before they even knew they were in danger. The cargo ships tried to run, but human ships were faster. Minho's weapons officer was a young woman named Hai-Rin. Before the war, she had been studying to become a doctor. Now she operated weapons that could crack planets. Disable their engines, but don't destroy them, Minho ordered. I want survivors. When the cargo ships were helpless, Minho's voice echoed across all radio frequencies. This is Captain Minho of the Human Defense Force. You have witnessed the price of murdering human children. Tell your prince that this is only the beginning. Tell him that humans are coming for him. Tell him that we will not stop until every last one of you pays for what you did. Then the human ships vanished back into space, leaving the damaged cargo. Ships to limp home with their terrifying message. Commander Yeon-Su had a bigger target in mind. Intelligence reports said the Hegemony Third Fleet was docked at the Kepler 186 shipyard for repairs and refitting. 300 ships, including some of their newest and most powerful vessels. The shipyard was supposed to be impossible to attack. It was surrounded by defense stations, protected by energy shields, and guarded by patrol fleets. No enemy had ever gotten close to it, but Yeon-Su wasn't planning to attack it. She was planning to destroy it from the inside. Her ship, a tiny stealth destroyer called Gwangju, was so small it could hide in the shadow of a large asteroid. It was designed for one mission, getting close to enemy targets without being seen. Yeon-Su spent 2 weeks watching the shipyard. She learned the patrol patterns, the shift changes, the delivery schedules. She waited until she knew every detail of how the base operated. Then she moved. Gwangju slipped past the patrol ships like a shadow. The defense sensors never saw it coming. Yeon-Su guided her ship right into the middle of the shipyard, between the rows of docked hegemony vessels. Target locked, reported her weapons officer, a quiet man named Jun-Ho. Fire everything, Yeon-Su ordered. Gwangju carried weapons that most races had never seen before. Weapons that human scientists had designed specifically for fighting enemies who didn't care about human lives. The ship fired once, and the entire shipyard disappeared in a ball of light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. 300 hegemony ships. Gone. The most advanced shipyard in their territory. Gone. Thousands of their best engineers and technicians. Gone. Yeon-Su's last transmission before jumping away was simple. For the children of Kepler 442b, news of the shipyard's destruction spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Asterian collective immediately recalled their ambassadors from hegemony space. The Spiral Commonwealth announced they were reviewing their relationships with all aggressive species. Even the neutral trading guilds started avoiding hegemony territory. Prince Zethmore called an emergency meeting of his war council. How did they do it? He demanded. How did a single small ship destroy our most protected base? General Kethvor, his military commander, looked frightened. We don't know, sir. Our sensors never detected anything. One moment the shipyard was there, the next it was gone. What about survivors? There are no survivors, sir. Whatever weapon they used, it left nothing behind. Prince Zethmore felt cold fear creeping up his spine. How many ships do we have left? About 60% of our original fleet, sir, but morale is breaking down. Our crews are afraid to leave port. They know that going into space means they might never come back. The prince tried to sound confident. We still outnumber them. We can still win this. But he didn't sound convinced, even to himself. Admiral Chang Min was about to show Prince Zethmore just how wrong he was. The human admiral had been planning something that no military strategist in galactic history had ever attempted: a coordinated attack on 12 different targets across 6 star systems, all happening at exactly the same time. Human fleets appeared out of hyperspace at precisely 1530 Galactic Standard Time. 12 hegemony military bases, separated by hundreds of light years, all came under attack in the same second. The attacks were perfect. Too perfect. Each human fleet knew exactly where to hit, exactly how many defenders they would face, exactly how long each battle would take. It was like they had practiced these attacks 1,000 times. The hegemony commanders couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some thought they were facing the same enemy fleet moving impossibly fast between systems. Others thought it was some kind of new human technology that could bend space and time. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humans had been watching, learning, planning. For months, invisible human ships had studied every hegemony base, every patrol route, every weakness. They had turned war into a science. In exactly 47 minutes, all 12 bases were destroyed. The timing was so precise that hegemony intelligence initially thought it was a computer error. No organic beings could coordinate that perfectly, but they could. When those organic beings were humans who had decided that another species needed to stop existing. Dr. Ji-won watched the war from her research station and felt sick. She was a psychologist who studied how different species behaved during conflicts. She had seen wars before, but nothing like this. "This isn't war," she wrote in her report. "War implies that both sides are fighting to achieve goals. The hegemony is fighting to win territory and show dominance. The humans aren't fighting at all. They're exterminating pests." She watched video recordings of human soldiers in battle. Their faces showed no anger, no fear, no excitement. They looked like farmers killing insects that had invaded their crops. Calm, efficient, and completely without mercy. "The scariest part," Ji-won continued, "is that they're not acting like monsters. They're acting like humans who have decided that another species shouldn't exist. They're still polite to prisoners. They still follow most of the rules of war. They just don't see the hegemony as people anymore." Prince Zethmore tried one last time to negotiate. He sent a message to the Galactic Council begging them to stop the humans. "They've gone insane," he pleaded. "They're not fighting a war. They're committing genocide. Stop them before they destroy us all." The Council's response was delivered by Elder Veltar. "Prince Zethmore, you were warned. You chose to ignore the oldest rule in the galaxy. You chose to murder human children and laugh about it. Now you face the consequences. The Council will not interfere." But Prince Zethmore wasn't listening to the whole message. He was staring at reports of 3 more attacks, 2 destroyed fleets, and the complete loss of contact with his outer territories. "How do we stop them?" he whispered. General Kethvor looked at his prince with sad eyes. "I don't think we can, sir. I don't think anyone can." In space, human fleets continued their patient, methodical work. They didn't hurry. They didn't make mistakes. They just kept coming, system after system, world after world, removing the hegemony from existence one piece at a time. And in the depths of human space, more ships were being built. Ships that carried weapons the galaxy had never seen. Ships crewed by humans who remembered what it meant to protect their children. The hegemony had broken the oldest rule in the galaxy. Now they were learning why that rule existed. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the 3rd time in a month. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great hall, but the mood was very different from the peaceful gathering where this all began. Now there was fear in the air. Admiral Sung Ho stood at the center of the hall. He was a calm man with gray hair and kind eyes, the sort of person you might see feeding birds in a park. But when he spoke, every being in the room listened carefully. "The human position is simple," he said quietly. "Surrender Prince Zethmore and his war council to face trial for genocide. Do this, and the current military action will stop. And if we refuse," asked Ambassador Velketh of the hegemony. Admiral Sung Ho's smile was gentle and terrifying at the same time. "Then we will finish what Prince Zethmore started. We will remove the hegemony threat permanently." The word permanently hung in the air like a threat. Everyone knew what it meant. Not defeat, not conquest, complete elimination. "You cannot be serious," Ambassador Velketh said. "You're talking about the destruction of an entire species." "Your species," Admiral Sung Ho replied calmly, "chose to murder 50,000 human children. You chose to laugh about it. You chose to attack more human families when we asked for justice. You made your choice. Now we make ours." Elder Veltar spoke from his seat. His ancient voice was sad. "Admiral, surely there must be another way. Some form of compensation, some—" "Elder Veltar," the Admiral interrupted. "With respect, your people understand what we are. You've seen this before. You know how this ends." The old Korthek nodded, slowly. "Yes, we know." Captain Na Young was processing hegemony prisoners on a captured military station. Her job was to document war crimes and gather intelligence. She had been a lawyer before the war, someone who believed in justice and fair trials and giving everyone a chance to defend themselves. She still believed in those things. That's what made her so terrifying. "Name?" she asked the hegemony officer, sitting across from her. "Commander Zakthor, Hegemony 3rd Fleet." "Were you present during the attack on Hope's Landing?" "I was following orders." Young made a note on her tablet. "That's not what I asked. Were you present during the attack on Hope's Landing?" The prisoner shifted uncomfortably. "Yes." "Did you personally fire on civilian evacuation ships?" "They were legitimate military targets. Escape pods carrying children are not military targets, Commander." Young's voice stayed perfectly calm. "Did you fire on escape pods carrying children?" The commander's metal skin turned a darker shade. "Yes." Young made another note. "Thank you for your cooperation. You will be transferred to a holding facility until your trial." "Trial? What trial?" "The trial where you will be found guilty of murdering human children and sentenced to death," Young said matter-of-factly, "unless you prefer to be handed over to the families of your victims. Some of them have asked for that option." The commander went very quiet. He had heard rumors about what happened to hegemony prisoners who were given to human families. The rumors were not pleasant. Dr. Jae Sung was embedded with human forces as they prepared for their final assault on the hegemony homeworld. He was documenting how humans behaved during total war, and what he saw disturbed him deeply. Human soldiers shared pictures of their children before going into battle. They talked about their families, their homes, their hopes for the future. They laughed at jokes and helped wounded comrades and showed kindness to prisoners. Then they went out and methodically exterminated everything in their path. "It's like watching two different species," Jae Sung wrote in his report. "In the mess hall, they're the same humans I've always known. Kind, funny, caring people who love their families. On the battlefield, they become something else entirely, something that kills without emotion and destroys without mercy. He watched a human sergeant named Bo Ram give candy to a group of refugee children in the morning. That afternoon, the same sergeant led an assault that wiped out an entire hegemony battalion in under an hour. "How do you do it?" Jae Sung asked. Her Bo Ram looked confused. "Do what?" "Switch between being a person and being that." Bo Ram thought about it for a moment. "I don't switch," she said finally. "I'm always a person. But some people try to hurt my family, my species, my children. Those aren't people anymore. They're problems that need solving." "And you solve them by killing them?" "I solve them by making sure they can never hurt anyone ever again." The hegemony's final stronghold was a massive military base built into an asteroid. It was supposed to be impossible to capture. The asteroid was covered with weapon turrets, shield generators, and sensor arrays. Tunnels deep inside the rock held thousands of hegemony soldiers and enough supplies to last for years. Colonel Bo Ram studied the assault plans with her staff. The attack was scheduled to begin in 6 hours, and she wanted everything perfect. "Estimated resistance?" she asked. 12,000 defenders, ma'am. Heavy weapons, prepared positions, multiple fallback lines. Estimated time to complete the mission? Our computer models say 47 minutes, ma'am. Bo Ram nodded. The computers were very good at predicting how long it took humans to kill things. They had lots of practice lately. The assault began exactly on schedule. Human soldiers moved through the asteroid tunnels like water flowing downhill, smooth and unstoppable. They knew exactly where every defender would be, exactly what weapons they would use, exactly how they would try to fight back. 47 minutes later, it was over. 12,000 hegemony soldiers. Dead. The most heavily defended position. In their territory. Captured. And the humans had done it with such precision that some observers wondered if they were using some kind of time travel technology. They weren't. They were just very good at killing things that threatened their children. Elder Veltar addressed the Galactic Council one final time. His voice was heavy with sadness and fear. "I have lived for 6 centuries," he said. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed wars that burned entire star systems. But I have never seen anything like this." He gestured to the holographic display showing hegemony territory. Most of it was now colored red, indicating human control. The humans don't just defeat their enemies, they erase them. They don't conquer territory, they remove the people who used to live there. They don't win wars, they solve problems. The council chamber was silent. Everyone understood what the elder was saying. "Other species fight until they achieve their goals," Veltar continued. "Humans fight until their enemies no longer exist. They are not angry. They are not cruel. They are simply thorough." Ambassador Jin Woo stood up from the human section. He still looked like the polite diplomat he had always been, but now everyone could see the steel underneath. "The Galactic Council had a chance to prevent this," he said calmly. "We asked for justice. We begged for help. We followed every rule, every protocol, every procedure. You ignored us." He pulled out a data pad and read from it. 50,317 humans died on Kepler 442b. 2,841 died at Hope's Landing. 1,612 died at New Busan. 738 died at Serenity Station. Jin Woo looked up from his pad. "We remember every name, every face. Every child who will never grow up because the hegemony thought human lives were worthless. "What do you want?" asked the Asterian ambassador. "We want the beings responsible for those deaths to face justice." And then? Jinwoo's smile was polite and absolutely terrifying. "And then we want to make sure this never happens again." He activated a holographic projector. The image showed detailed plans for something that made the entire council gasp in horror. "This is our plan for the complete elimination of hegemony civilization," Jinwoo said matter-of-factly. "Not conquest, not subjugation, total extinction carried out with mathematical precision." The plans were incredibly detailed. Which worlds to target first, how to destroy their infrastructure, how to hunt down survivors, how to make sure that in 50 years no one would remember that the hegemony had ever existed. "You're talking about genocide!" shouted Ambassador Velketh. "No," Jinwoo replied calmly. "Genocide is what you did to our colonies. This is pest control." Prince Zethmore's final transmission was broadcast across the entire galaxy. His voice was broken, defeated, full of terror. "We were wrong," he said. "We thought humans were weak because they were peaceful. We thought their kindness meant they couldn't fight. We were so wrong." Static filled the transmission for a moment. Then his voice came back. "To any species listening to this, remember what happened to us. Remember that we broke the oldest rule in the galaxy. Remember that we challenged humanity's wrath and learned from our mistake." The transmission cut to static and never resumed. Human. Fleets continued their work, patient and thorough and utterly without mercy. The galaxy watched in silent horror as an entire species simply ceased to exist, erased by beings who looked like gentle, peaceful gardeners. But as Elder Veltar had tried to warn everyone, humans were only gardeners until something threatened their garden. Then they became something else entirely, something that pulled up weeds by the roots and made sure they could never grow back. The galaxy was quiet. For the first time in anyone's memory, there was complete silence from an entire sector of space. Where the hegemony had once controlled hundreds of worlds, there was now nothing but empty systems and human colonization. Ships. President Da-Un stood on the balcony of what used to be Prince Zethmore's palace. The building was now the Human Colonial Administration Center for the planet that used to be called Hegemon Prime. The humans had renamed it New Busan. Below her, human families were setting up farms where hegemony weapons factories used to stand. Human children played in parks built on the foundations of hegemony military bases. It was peaceful and normal and somehow more terrifying than any battle had been. The Galactic Council was meeting again, but this time they came to the humans. Representatives from dozens of species had traveled to New Busan to hear what President Da-Un had to say. "We tried diplomacy," she began. Her voice was calm and reasonable, like a teacher explaining something to slow students. "We followed your rules. We trusted in your justice system. We believed that civilized beings could work together to solve problems." She paused and looked out at the alien delegates. Most of them couldn't meet her eyes. "When that failed, we did what humans do when our children are threatened. We removed the threat. Completely." Elder Veltar raised one clawed hand. "President Da-Un, what guarantees can you give that this will not happen again? How do we know that humans will not turn their weapons on other species?" Da-Un smiled. It was a warm, motherly smile that somehow made everyone in the room feel cold. "Elder Veltar, the answer is simple. Don't threaten our children. Don't murder our families. Don't mistake our kindness for weakness. Follow those rules, and humans will be the best neighbors you could ask for. And if someone breaks those rules, then they stop existing. Dr. Wu Jin was studying the psychological changes in human society since the war ended. What he found worried him. Humans hadn't gone back to being the peaceful explorers they had been before. Something fundamental had changed. They're different now, he wrote in his report. The capacity for total war isn't something they've put away until the next crisis. It's become a permanent part of who they are. He interviewed human families on New Busan. They seemed normal. Mothers taking care of children, fathers working. In the fields, teenagers complaining about homework. But there was something underneath the normalcy, something watchful and dangerous. "Do you miss the old Earth?" he asked a farmer named Ki-jun. "Not really," Ki-jun replied. "Earth was nice, but it was always a little crowded. Here we have room to grow." "What about the previous inhabitants?" Ki-jun's expression didn't change. "What previous inhabitants?" Wu Jin checked his notes. According to his records, Ki-jun had been a literature teacher before the war. Now he grew food on soil that had been fertilized with the ashes of an entire species, and he talked about it like discussing the weather. Captain Kyung-soo was overseeing the construction of memorial worlds. These were former hegemony planets that had been converted into monuments to human casualties. Every human who had died was remembered with detailed displays showing their lives, their families, their dreams. But the memorials served another purpose. They were warnings. Alien tourists who visited the memorial worlds saw holographic recreations of the attacks on human colonies. They watched hegemony fighters strafing evacuation ships. They saw the faces of human children in their last moments of life. Then they saw what happened next. "We want everyone to understand," Kyung-soo explained to a group of Asterian visitors. "This is what happens when you hurt human children. We don't just remember our dead, we make sure the beings who killed them are completely removed from existence." One of the Asterian delegates asked, "How can you live with what you've done?" Kyung-soo looked genuinely confused by the question. "Live with what? We protected our families. We removed a threat to human children. Why would we have trouble living with that?" The Asterian had no answer. Admiral Hae-won was working on something called the Terran Accords. These were new rules for how the galaxy would work now that everyone understood what humans were really capable of. The rules were simple. No species shall attack human civilians. No species shall threaten human children. No species shall attempt genocide against any race under human protection. Violations of these rules will result in complete elimination of the offending species. "It's not about conquest," Admiral Hae-won explained to the Galactic Council. "We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure that what happened to our colonies never happens to anyone else's." Most species signed the accords immediately. A few tried to negotiate changes to the wording. Those species found human fleets appearing at the edges of their territories within days. The fleets didn't attack. They just waited, silent and patient, until the negotiations were complete. Every species signed. The Spiral Commonwealth actually requested human protection after watching what had happened to the hegemony. Their ambassador, a nervous bird-like creature named Trill-neth, came to Earth personally. "We have enemies," Trill-neth explained. "The Mordak horde has been threatening our border worlds. They say they will enslave our children and sell them as workers." President Dae-yoon listened carefully. "And you want human protection?" "Yes. We can offer trade agreements, scientific cooperation, cultural exchange." "You don't need to offer us anything," Dae-yoon interrupted. Threatening to enslave children is exactly the sort of behavior we were designed to stop. Within a week, human ships were patrolling Commonwealth space. The Mordak Horde sent one aggressive message demanding that the humans leave. They never sent another message, because within hours of that transmission, the Mordak Horde stopped existing. Dr. Sang Min was studying how humans had managed to become so efficient at warfare. What he discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. They weaponized their own empathy, he wrote. Humans form incredibly strong emotional bonds with their own species. But when another species threatens those bonds, humans stop seeing the threat as sentient beings. They become problems to be solved. He interviewed human soldiers who had participated in the elimination of the hegemony. They showed no signs of trauma, no guilt, no regret. When asked about the civilians who had died in the conquest, most looked genuinely confused. "What civilians?" asked Captain Minho. There were no civilians. There were only beings who belonged to the species that murdered human children. But surely some of them were innocent. No, Minho interrupted. None of them were innocent. They all belonged to a species that chose to target human families. That made them all threats that needed removing. Sang Min realized that humans hadn't become monsters. They had simply reclassified an entire species as non-sentient threats. It was the same mental process they used to exterminate dangerous animals or remove cancer cells. Efficient, thorough, completely without mercy. As the years passed, the galaxy settled into its new reality. Trade flourished. Scientific cooperation reached new heights. Wars between species became extremely rare because everyone understood that humans were watching. Ambassador Youngsuk delivered humanity's final statement to the reformed Galactic Council on the 5th anniversary of the hegemony's elimination. "We are not monsters," she said. "We are gardeners. We plant seeds of peace and cooperation. We water them with trade and friendship. We help them grow with scientific exchange and cultural understanding." She paused and looked around the chamber at representatives from hundreds of species. "But when weeds appear in our garden, when species choose to threaten children or commit genocide, we pull them up by the roots. We make sure they can never grow back. We do this not because we enjoy it, but because it keeps the garden safe for everyone else." The chamber was completely silent. "Remember the hegemony," Youngsuk continued. "Remember what happens when you mistake our kindness for weakness. Remember why the oldest rule in the galaxy exists. Never challenge humanity's wrath." She gathered her papers and prepared to leave, then stopped and turned back. "The children on New Busan are learning to read. They're playing games and making friends and dreaming about what they want to be when they grow up. They're growing up on soil that used to belong to beings who thought human children were worthless." Youngsuk smiled. It was a gentle, loving smile that filled every alien in the room with terror. "Those children will never know fear because we made sure the things that threaten them don't exist anymore. That's what good gardeners do. We protect what we've planted." She left the chamber quietly. Behind her, representatives from dozens of species sat in stunned silence, processing what they had just heard. The galaxy had learned its lesson. In the new star charts, human space was marked with ancient warning symbols. Children of dozens of species learned bedtime stories about the sleeping giants who protected the innocent and destroyed the wicked. Tour guides told visitors about the hegemony, the species that forgot the rules and disappeared. Most young aliens thought it was just a story, like tales of monsters that lived under the bed. But their parents knew better. Their parents remembered watching an entire species simply stop existing because they had made the mistake of threatening human children. And in the depths of human space, hidden shipyards continued their quiet work, building ships that would never be used,